That didn't sound right. Well, welcome back to part 2 of fixing up my 2013 WaveRunner. Part 1 is just up there in the card. And in the first episode, we started pulling it apart because I suspect that it's done the supercharger clutch. It's a 1.8 litre inline 4-cylinder with a supercharger, and the supercharger on jet skis in, well, pretty much all of them, have a clutch. And the clutch is just a dog clutch, and it's designed to stop loading up the supercharger when you get the jet ski out of the water, jumping waves or skipping along the top of rough water, that sort of thing. Also, kind of when you back off the throttle really hard. Some people fit blow-off valves to them, try and extend the life of the clutch, and some people reckon that works, some people don't. Regardless of which, I started pulling it all apart, and it's a reasonably decent job, especially if you've never done it before. I alluded to the fact that things go horribly wrong in this video, and they certainly do. So we're going to start where we left off. In the last video, I pulled the oil pump off the front of the motor and took the intermediate gear out, and we're just about ready to take the clutch off. So let's get to it. Well, here's the old clutch, and here is the new clutch. Now, interestingly enough, my biggest fear was that my intermediate gear, that big cog that I took out just before, was going to be incorrect because I've got a 2013 SHO and this is off a 2021 SVHO. And online, it said that this clutch will not fit my ski. So that was a little bit scary, but I went and checked on forums and spoke to a lot of people and was told that I should be okay. And the thing that I figured would tell me if that was the case was if this tool fits on here and this tool also fits on here, and that means that these drive sprockets are the same, so that's a good sign. I guess we should count the teeth on the outside and see if that's fine also. But one thing to note very quickly, rattly sounding, ball bearing-y kind of thing sounding stuff, no sound whatsoever. So this one spins one way and doesn't spin the other way. This one spins one way. Oh, it's even spinning both ways right now, look at that. It's spinning in both directions. One way it's spinning easier than the other, but that clutch is definitely, absolutely, completely knackered. Here's our new clutch, and we can spin it one way, and it's just, won't even have a bar going the other way at all. So, that's good news all around. Let's just make sure that these sprockets are the same, and then we should be happy days. Oh, I'm getting happier and happier as the day goes on. Just marked them up the top with a red Sharpie and counted them, and they're both 57 teeth. That means, provided that these bad boys fit and I don't screw up the timing chain tensioner thing and the gasket and everything else, we should be good to go. But let's have a look at the fronts of these. They are significantly different. And you can see this must be where the clearance issue comes from. See, this has got quite a smaller section here than this one here, is quite a lot bigger. And that must be where these replacement bolts must sit around here somewhere, and that must be where that clearance is required. Can't be much though, because the difference between a button head and a hex head wouldn't be that much, you wouldn't have thought, but. All right, let's get to it. I'm getting excited. All right, well now I've got to get down in here and get these timing chain tensioner bolts out. So a bit more work from a blind man by the looks of it. All right, here we go.
the two different bolts right there. Well, let's see how hard it is to get it in. I think I've started with the easy one, unfortunately. Should know better, should always start with the hard one, but oh, here we go.
Okay, well, the timing tensioner bolt thingy, whatever those things are, they're changed out. So now it's time for us to stick the new clutch in and see if it fits.
Why is that making that noise? Alrighty. Okay, so I have cleaned off all of the gasket material around this oil pump, and now we are going to stick this back down and there on the front of the motor. So I'm going to put this new gasket, apparently it's reusable, which will be nice, onto the oil pump. No. Aha. Okay, now that's been a bit bent in transport, so that's going to make it a royal pain in the neck to keep on there. I'm going to try putting a little bit of grease on here and see how that goes. Just a dab of grease in all of the spots where it needs to stick, especially where it's lifting, like around here. See if we can use this like glue. Come on, baby. Let's do the right thing for us here.
Well, an update. I'm tripping over everything. I've got the oil pump back on. I just used a heap of grease on that gasket, and my torque wrench doesn't go down to the required torque for those bolts on the oil pump housing, so they're well, they're tight enough. And now we're just going to put the supercharger back on, and I'm assuming my torque wrench probably won't do that either because it hasn't done anything so far. And then I've got to put the oil feed line back on, and I've got to remember to put this one back on, and I've got to remember to put some oil in it before I try and start it up. And that's my way of making sure that I'm not an idiot, don't get too excited and start it up before I put oil back in it. Gee, I hope this works. Oh well, I got it out. Thankfully it wasn't
actually in there too hard, which is makes me wonder if this bolt was fatigued, because I mean I was going on it with the torque wrench, but torque wrench did do the other bolt just fine. I've got the vice grips in there and I only gave it like one little tweak and I was able to just wind it out by hand. So I don't know. Alright, well now I've got to try and find a friggin' bolt in town tomorrow that looks like that. Alright, well, you know, that sucks. What I've done is I've gone down to the local agricultural shop, and I've got these 8.8 high tensile bolts that are same pitch and kind of the length. This is going to be a temporary solution. Just put these O-ring sort of seals on there, and it's not ideal because it doesn't have the big mushroom sort of top like these ones do, but hopefully it will do as a temporary solution. I've got some OEM ones coming, but they're coming out of Japan and they're going to be months away. So all right, well, let's go ahead and have attempt 2, shall we? All right, well, don't know if I'm sweating because it's hot in here or because I'm worried about snapping another bolt. It's all in. Supercharger and the oil line's on, the oil feed line. The oil feed line is actually a bit of a pain. And that goes onto the intake. I'm going to put this oil line here back on. Alright, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the intake off the front of the supercharger. I'll just tuck this out of the way. I'm going to put the intercooler pipe back on. Then I'm going to fill up the oil. So I'll have to level out the jet ski and take the drum off. Don't need that. Once we've got enough oil, we'll start it up without the airbox in there so that we can check for leaks all around the oil pump easier. And if it explodes, then it'll be less work to pull it all back apart again. So let's go ahead and get some oil in it, get that hose on, and then I think it's time for a test fire. That didn't sound right.
Several days later.
The saga is still going on. I've just taken the clutch out again. There it is. My reusable gasket's not really that reusable. Hopefully it's going to reseal, we'll see. Unfortunately, with the clutch out, it definitely was over torqued. Had a whale of a time getting there. I actually had to get out the old air rattle gun to get it off, and unfortunately she's still locked up. So next port of call is to put all the clutch and everything back in properly, not over torqued, and then I guess we're going to have to start attacking the jet pump, and we will see if it's the jet pump locked up, which everybody online seems to think it is. I don't understand why that's just happened all of a sudden, but it's worth pulling it out just to see. So we'll take the jet pump out, and then if that's no good, it's going to go to Perth and see if there's a stuck valve or timing issue or something. Maybe when I've reefed on it, I've skipped a tooth on the timing chain or something. That's the only thing I can think of at this point in time. I think that's unlikely, but don't like the look of it. Anyway, let's put this clutch back in, and I'm going to get started pulling the jet pump out. Well, we've just taken the jet pump apart, and unfortunately, still no go. And well, that leads us to something internal of the engine that's causing the problem, and probably a jumped tooth or two on the timing chain. So that's a bit unfortunate.
Alrighty, so I don't know what is wrong with this, and I would love anyone who knows anything about jet skis or mechanics in general to comment below if you think you know what's wrong with this ski. Look, the problem I had was twofold. I think personally maybe I've done something to the timing chain tensioner or the timing chain itself, mainly because someone has said to me that cheap Chinese torque wrenches like mine don't work in reverse. So as I was reefing on that left-handed thread on the supercharger clutch, I was putting way too much pressure on it. And when you combine that with the fact that I put that tool, where is it? When I put this tool in the wrong place and didn't have it resting up against the recess, those bolt holes on the block, it meant that the whole engine turned backwards, and I don't know if somehow that's caused something internal to skip some teeth on the timing chain or something else really weird that's happened. At this point, my ski's out of action. It's a bit of a sad day, and until we can sort of ascertain what's wrong with it, I guess we won't be riding it at all. And assuming that I'm probably going to have to take this to Perth now and have someone who's a little bit more competent than myself have a look at it. But if you can help me out, please leave a comment below and let us know what your thoughts are on this. Have I missed something really simple here? It doesn't turn over when the clutch is removed. It doesn't turn over when the jet unit is removed. It's just completely locked up hard. So we've taken the rocker cover off. We've had a look in there, and it's pretty clean. There doesn't seem to be anything obvious on the top end of the motor. We've had a look down in the bores with a little bore scope, but unfortunately didn't have the side camera on it, so we couldn't see the valves, but there didn't seem to be any damage on 2, 3 and 4 cylinders. Number 1 we couldn't really see because it was basically at top dead center, and perhaps maybe that's stuck, a valve is stuck on that piston. I don't know. Anyway, let us know what you think, and we'll revisit this one day, probably in the distant future when I have enough money to get this sorted out. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.